Welcome to Explore, Explain, Highlights. In this Highlights package, we'll be looking at Season 2, Episode 9, with our guests Miriam Quick and Stephanie Posavec, discussing their project, I Am a Book, I Am a Portal to the Universe.
So, I Am a Book, I Am a Portal to the Universe. It uses itself as a measuring device to size up the wonders of the cosmos on a one-to-one scale, where every interaction with a book or the book's components is actually communicating data. So it uses its volume, its weight, the thickness of a page, how loud how loud of a noise it makes when it slams shut, wearing it as a hat. What else does it do? Holding one side of the book up and letting it drop. So both every aspect of its materials, and then also how all these different ways that you interact with it tell you something. They kind of each communicate an interesting kind of data fact about our universe.
It's quite early on, and I can't remember if we actually had it in the proposal, but the book itself would be a character. The book would speak in the first person. It would have this very distinct voice, and that it would introduce its own dimensions first, and then it would introduce what it can show you about the world using its own dimensions and measurements. So that was quite fundamental, I think. And also that everything would be on a one-to-one scale. This was something that got set very early, that we didn't want to use, essentially, we didn't want to translate between scales. We wanted to have everything on the page at actual size. Or, the volume of the book is the volume of the thing that we're talking about, or the weight of the book is the weight of the thing that we're talking about, so that you can experience it in a very physical, very direct way without having to do any kind of mental abstraction.
It was just the two of us, although I guess we have a lot of people that helped us in the thank yous. So we have a lot of acknowledgements, but I think that the people who were shaping the direction of the book, it was me and Miriam, and then our agent was Rebecca, was a really excellent sounding board, and then we had a couple different editors who were really part of the process, who offered a lot of input as well. But it was really just the two of us, and I'm sure Miriam wants to thank all the people that helped from the fact-checking side of things.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, one person I should thank first is Helen Conford, who was our first editor, who was at Penguin at the time, and now is at Profile Books. And she was the one who really, the editor who first believed in the concept and said, look, this is something that you need to go away and do. But then there were a lot of people who helped me with the fact-checking and reading through the book, looking for any kind of lapses in tone or errors or omissions. And I'm kind of lucky that I have a lot of friends and family who work in science. So I've got quite a good army of fact checkers there. And there were people who helped with specific spreads. Like, I'm really grateful to Charlie Stone, Duncan Gear, and Jonas Helson, who helped with this particular spread, which is about what would happen if you dropped the book from a 10-kilometer high tower. Like, physically speaking, what would happen? It's quite difficult to model. So I needed to enlist some physicists to actually work out the impact of air drag and whether the book would rotate and what speed it would hit the ground at. So I'm really grateful to them for that. Just to speak to that, like, there were a lot of constraints with this book, and one of the things that really helped us was that we had a dummy made. We had a pair of dummies made, so we had one each. So early in the process, that we just had this blank book that we could kind of touch and hold, and it was done to the final specs, final coverboard thickness, paper specs, paper size, and we literally just weighed that dummy to see how much the book would weigh, and it came out roughly about 450 grams. We were like, well, that's lucky, that's a nice round number. It's nearly £1 if in case we get a US deal. So that was great. And then we became kind of obsessed over the course of writing the book with like making sure this weight was accurate. So we had lots and lots of different dummies made, and then when we got our first copies back from the printers, we weighed it again, and we made our editor weigh it and our agent, and kind of took the mean, and we were like, oh, is it really going to be? It was a bit underweight. And then we realized that if you keep the book in a room for 6 months, it puts on weight because it absorbs moisture from the air. Right. So my book gained like 10 grams because I live in Devon and it's kind of really damp. So yeah, we probably got a bit too obsessed with the weight, didn't we? But it's roughly 450 grams.
I'll just chime in here just to say that I think it's just the data side of us where you are so used to trying to be as precise as possible, but you're also working with such a variable material, which is books and paper and humidity, which is out of your control, you know.
Well, there were quite a few things that didn't make it into the book, actually. So we originally started with a list of about 80 different, what we call variables, ways in which the book can tell a story through its measurements. And a lot of them didn't make the cut, but there were some that kind of didn't make the cut for safety reasons. Like we had this idea that maybe we could use the book as not literally, of course, but conceptually use it as a bullet shield. Could a book stop a bullet? And I watched lots of YouTube videos to see how many books it takes to stop a bullet. Turns out it's quite a lot of books, but you don't really want to be experimenting with it. And
I guess what I'll do is I'll talk about kind of my way into the problem, which is coming from a design perspective, because Miriam's approach is from a different angle. But I mean, we did start with having a dummy, or just even before we had the dummy of the book, just holding books in our hands and playing with them, you know, looking at every single component of the book, doing as many strange things as we could. And then for me, I would use that as a starting point and be like, oh, Miriam, wouldn't it be a beautiful poetic thing if this interaction represented this? That seems like a really nice link. And then she could go see whether that data was there or not. Like there was one, like a good example is that originally I thought, wouldn't it be cool if this could be like your beak? And like you could show the proportion of a bird's beak to your head, like see how big, if you were a bird, how big your beak would feel. But that data is not out there. So then Miriam like had to find tongue data. So that was one side, was just me coming at it from a visual wit perspective, like trying to find just clever, witty ways of communicating the data where the interaction somehow had some very perfect like connection to the data we were communicating. Just looking for very playful kind of aha concepts. That was my way into it. And then Miriam, you came from the other side, didn't you?
Yeah, so I was coming more from a research point of view, and I was looking at things that I was personally interested in, that I wanted to find out more about. I might occasionally read something in a book or a magazine or a journal and be like, that's a fantastic figure that really helps contextualize something important about the world, and I want to include that. But a lot of them actually came from sort of almost like reverse engineering from the measurements themselves. So the book weighs 450 grams. What can I think of that's the same weight as 450 grams? Or what would be a meaningful way of communicating weight differences? So we have a spread which is about how much the book would weigh on the moon. It'd weigh as much as a tennis ball, so about 1/6 of the weight. Or how much it would weigh on Jupiter. It would weigh about as much as a bottle of wine. And then how much it would weigh on a neutron star, which is kind of almost infinite, as much as a mountain. And I was also starting from, things like the size of a page. The page is 20 centimeters wide and tall. So that's our maximum length we can include on a 1-to-1 scale. And the minimum length is really the smallest possible dot that you can see on a page, which I think was 0.1 millimeters. So those are our size constraints. And we've got this spread, which is about kind of exploring those size constraints. So we've got a page of 2 eggs. On the left-hand side, there's the human egg, which is just about visible with the naked eye, and it's about 0.1 millimeters across. And it's a tiny, tiny dot on the end of an arrow. And then we've got another kind of, it's actually a sort of xenophyrophore. It's not an egg. It's a very mysterious kind of sea creature. It lives at the bottom of the ocean. And it's about 20 centimeters across, and it's a single cell. So it's one of the biggest single-celled organisms. Right. So you've got the smallest possible point and the largest possible point on the page. So yeah, I think really the book was about starting from our constraints and working out what we could do within those constraints.
Thank you for joining us for this Explore, Explain highlights episode. As always, the full episode is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We hope to see you again soon on another episode of Explore, Explain.